Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And I'm showing you my wine rack mostly because I got everything straightened out in alphanumeric order and pretty relatively clean. Whenever I stockpile rice and beans in buckets, I don't put them out here for decorations because they don't look that good, but a wine rack does look good. And another thing about stockpiling food is once you've got cans that are rusting away because you can't eat it quick enough, and you got bugs coming out of your corn flakes, and you got mold and mildew growing on your flour, well, no point in buying more corn flakes, more cans, and more flour. You start buying things that ain't gonna rot, like my little bit of medical supplies that I just went through and straightened out, and this little bit of wine supplies. Now this rack has been full like this for years and years and years. You know, when I got this wine rack full, I was like, well, my wine preps are done. But then you find a space somewhere and you think, wow, I could put another wine rack up. So we did. So we got this wine rack here. And a cat underneath my wine glasses. And there's a wine rack over there behind the door. When the door's shut, you can see it better. But this here, just so you can see, this is kind of fancy. I'm a little proud of that. We bought some fruit trees. And you know how those fruit trees come with those metal rods. Hold them up so they don't flop over. I just took some of the metal rods and bent them and screwed them up there. That looks like a rich person's wine glasses, don't it? Oh well. Yeah, once this was filled, and I just said I spent $500 on groceries this month. That's not really true. I spent like $300 on groceries and $200 on booze. Because I was, you know, I did an inventory. I cleaned things up while I was sick. And just decided that we had to go out and fill all these extra spaces now. They got everything cleaned up and organized. So anyways, let's look over here. Oh, and you see the champagne bottles? I'll have to do a video on just champagne bottles in a minute because that looks pretty extravagant for somebody that talks about being poor. But that's really cheap and it's really useful, and I'm going to show you why in another video. Now, at this point, I could say, wow, look at all that. I'm either finished or I could fill this whole cabinet with booze bottles just like that. There's a lot more space here. And honestly, I don't know. You know, I mean, as months go on and I have less money, then I end up with my supplies going down some. And when I have more money, I always try to buy an extra. But in my head right now, when I first put this together, I was like, I will never buy another bottle of booze as long as I live. But as I've been looking at this, I actually have some booze bottles here. Like this, it's open. So my plan is to just drink until there's like 4 bottles up here that are open. 5, something like that. When I get those emptied, as I empty them, I'll replace them with a full bottle and never touch it again. If I get this thing stacked just right with all perfect bottles, we're done until the next urge hits me. Now I have a confession to make. I've always said that I do not have a bug out bag because I have no intention of bugging out. I mean, if I'm going to live here or die here, that's better than just going somewhere else to die. I mean, I've got health issues, so, you know, I'm not just going to be running with some kind of a chance. If I run, I have no chance. Although a lot of people have made offers for me to come live with them if something happens. That might be my option. But anyway, here's my bug out bag. So if you call and say, hey, come bug out to my house, this is what I'll be bringing. Ta-da! When's the last time you saw one of those? When I was working on the road, this went with us. It was part of our luggage. We'd have a block of cheese and a bunch of crackers. And this was actually, back then it would have been filled with wine. Well, I think we always carried a bottle of vodka and a couple of bottles of wine. And that was our party. We'd go somewhere and work, and that night stay in a hotel room, and the next morning get up and drive home. Or however long we'd stay. Sometimes we'd stay 2 or 3 days. Anyway, survivalist booze. And you may think there's no reason to have survivalist booze, but like I said before, once you get all your food that has a tendency to rot stockpiled to beyond limits, time to start buying things that don't rot. Plus, if you should get in a situation where one of your neighbors kills a deer and invites everybody in the neighborhood over to eat, and you're the only guy that can bring alcohol, you're like a hero. And you don't have to bring an unopened bottle. You know, I mean, if somebody invites you to eat a deer, they're probably going to be pretty trustworthy, but it may be best just to take one of these bottles, pour it into a bucket, smash some leaves up into it, add some water or some berries or whatever, and just pretend like it's some kind of homemade stuff. People are pretty stupid about stuff like that, so they probably wouldn't catch on. Anyway, that's just my last little bit of wisdom on survivalist booze. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.